Now let's get straight into this. So SEC Chair Gary Gensler has come out saying that the crypto market is full of Ponzi schemes and frauds, and I think he used the word hucksters. Did he say hucksters? I mean, grandpa here talking about crypto, right? Mr. regulates crypto, taught crypto at MIT, and yet says he has never once owned cryptocurrency or ever used a blockchain. How can you have somebody like this in charge of this industry? It's like putting somebody in charge of regulating the car industry who's never driven a car. It's absolute insanity going on right now in the crypto regulation scene in the USA. Now, here's the real bombshell that I want to talk about, and it's this. Gary Gensler was meeting with Binance back in 2018. You want to know what's even crazier? Gary Gensler offered to serve as an advisor to Binance in 2019. That's massive. That's massive. I feel like almost he needs to recuse himself for this entire process due to all these potential conflicts of interest that we see coming out here from Gary Gensler. And it's just, the entire situation is insane that we're seeing happening in the USA right now. This war on crypto. It really sells America short because it's such a big opportunity for the USA to be a leader in this space, one that is being forfeited by an anti-crypto, anti-innovation White House, and basically rejecting an industry that could support as many as 1 million jobs in the USA. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Now, the SEC has come out and said that Binance and its US affiliate redirected billions of dollars in customers' assets to the COCZ's personal funds. Now, the Coinbase and the Binance US suits are very, very different, although there are some similarities. Now, the similarities here are that they both say that they are listing unregistered securities, which is a lot of major cryptocurrencies, Cardano, Solana, and a few others, right? But big top coins are here, Sandbox, stuff like this. But where we diverge significantly is when we look at what is happening with the Binance US story. And the allegations here are quite big if, of course, they prove to be more than just allegations, right? So in particular, they go on to say that, well, basically, there was a massive amount of money that was commingled, right? And so that commingling, we're talking about $12 billion worth of potential funds here that have been commingled, according to the SEC filing. Although, as CZ pointed out in this tweet right here, he says this is simply false. Not sure if the journalist or the source. To the best of my knowledge, Binance US had in total roughly $2 billion in user funds. This number in USD equivalent fluctuates a little as crypto prices change and declining as users withdraw due to recent events. All user funds are accounted for and never left Binance US unless users withdrew them themselves, of course. Now, this very big allegation. Of course, it's all going to play out in the courts, might take quite a while. And my guess is that by the time we even really see this coming to a resolution in the courts, Gary Gensler may not even be the head of the SEC anymore, especially if we get a new administration, if Biden gets out of the US, right, as the president. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. I feel like right now, the SEC is really taking the throw crap at the wall and see what sticks kind of approach to regulation. And it's selling the entire industry short once again. It's so disappointing to see. Now, this also something says from Rue Blockchain. So apparently Binance's CEO released an internal letter talking about employee chat records, which disclosed from the SEC. Now, these basically what he went on to say is, look, as you can see, this is just two guys ranting privately 5 years ago. And this is the evidence that the SEC is using against Binance right now. They are coming out and saying, well, look, Binance did all this bad stuff, right? And look, here's the chat logs to prove it. But it's basically just two employees bitching about the company and making comments in private that were then, of course, taken potentially largely out of context, or certainly didn't represent any kind of official things going on at Binance. Again, we have to let all this play out in the courts here for Binance, but definitely they are doing a bit of damage control here at Binance. As he went on to say, we don't check employee chat logs. This is actually the first time that he's seeing this himself. So in the SEC's lawsuit, it's the first time that he's actually seeing this stuff from the former compliance officer that they had this conversation back in 2018 that, you know, hey, bro, we're basically selling unregistered securities in the USA, man. It's crazy, right? So this is explosive claims. But again, what gets proven in court is going to be a very, very different thing versus the salacious headline-grabbing allegations. So to be clear, we don't want Binance to go down. And I know you're having a lot of Bitcoin maximalists right now out there saying, yeah, down with all the centralized exchanges. If the centralized exchanges go down, we only have Bitcoin available on exchanges. That's going to be basically the end of crypto as we know it. I mean, hey, great for Bitcoin, but I don't think we're going to attract the same level of innovation and excitement into this industry without a wide range of options available for people. So pretty interesting comments there as well. Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, came out and said instead of publishing a clear rulebook, the SEC has taken a regulation by enforcement approach that is harming America. Yes, that is absolutely freaking true. I completely agree with that sentiment. And he's absolutely right. It's again, ridiculous situation that we are seeing here. Now, before we get into some of the regulator responses to what we are seeing right now, I did just want to let you know, if you are not yet signed up to the Wealth Mastery newsletter, you got to get signed up. It is the best newsletter in the crypto space. Every single issue, jam-packed, full of value. We talk about altcoins, NFTs, DeFi, charts, news, and much, much more 3 times weekly to your inbox. Join our over 70,000 readers and sign up for free. There's a link down in the description where you can sign up and get the newsletter and stop missing out. Now, let's talk about some of the implications of all this stuff that's happening. So Coinbase has said they have no plans currently to delist any of the assets or to end their staking services. Coinbase is going to war, and I support them in doing that because they damn well should. Remember, the SEC allowed Coinbase to become a publicly listed company, knowing their business model, knowing what assets they list, knowing the staking services are out on offer. And then a couple years later, turn around and say, actually, you were breaking the law this whole time. Gotcha. That's crazy. So they said, we're not going to delist these cryptocurrencies. We don't believe that we are doing anything wrong. We don't believe that these are securities, and nor do we believe that staking as a service is a security. Now, remember earlier this year, we had Kraken. They came out and they settled with the SEC, probably because they didn't have enough funds to fight the SEC in court. So they paid, I think, a $30 million fine or something like that, a huge fine for a smaller exchange like Kraken to absorb. Coinbase, better funded, they are going to bat for the entire crypto industry here. So I support Coinbase, support Binance, everyone, what they're doing here in fighting against the SEC in the USA. Tim Draper came out and said that regulation by enforcement, that is what they do over in Russia, right? The SEC forgot that the USA is the land of the free, or it's supposed to be anyway, right? Do you really feel like it's the land of the free when you're told you're not allowed to do staking, you're not allowed to invest in token seals, you're not allowed to invest in IPOs. Only people who have certain net worths are allowed to invest in IPOs. All you poor people, no, you can't get rich like the rich people get richer. We need to keep you protected from that. You can go to the casino, lose your life savings. That's fine, but you cannot invest in IPOs and other things. You can't use some of these different protocols. We're going to tell you what coins you can and can't invest in, what technologies you can and can't invest in. We're going to choose the winners, right? Or protect the incumbents more appropriately. Tim goes on to say our country needs to set clear boundaries and enforce them, not force litigation to decide how the rules work. Agreed. Absolutely. Michael Arrington, founder of TechCrunch and Arrington Capital, came out and said Gensler is being accused of being in complete contempt of Congress right now with this current crackdown on Coinbase. He said that he is portraying crypto as the villain in order to portray himself as the political hero. That's according to one congressman. It's very, very interesting as well. You got to remember, the SEC is supposed to be protecting investors, right? And yet Gary Gensler met with the guys at FTX multiple times, was actually working apparently on helping FTX to corner the entire US market and force a lot of competitors out, which is insanity. We have a lot of dirty stuff going on in the background. And yet, here he is. I'm the hero of protecting your average investor when I let all these other frauds go by. It's total craziness, of course. U.S. Senator Cynthia Loomis also came out stating the SEC has failed to provide a path for digital asset exchanges to register and provide any kind of legal guidance on what differentiates a security from a commodity. Remember, right now, the SEC is operating on a mandate from the 1930s. It was 1934. And basically, there was some like orange orchard or something like that. This is where the rules are. This is how the rules are operating for crypto right now. We're operating off of almost a century-old orange orchard case as how to legislate for digital tokens. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Senator Bill Hagerty comes out. The SEC is weaponizing the rule to kill an entire industry. Allowing a company to list publicly and then stonewalling their attempts to register is indefensible. He says Gary Gensler expect to hear from Congress. The SEC is an organization that damn well needs some oversight, man. The fact that there isn't oversight right now from Congress and that they're not actually intervening and passing legislation, because that's what really needs to happen. The U.S. political class needs to come together and pass legislation for cryptocurrency in the USA. However, you have an anti-crypto White House right now who would veto any bill that gets through, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality at the moment. So in spite of the fact we might have some senators and congresspeople who are interested in preserving crypto, keeping those million jobs in the USA, keeping the tax benefits, the innovation benefits, and everything else that comes from that, well, you know, the dude in charge of the country, not so much on board with all of that. Although Ryan Silkus, he's the founder and CEO of Masaria Crypto, he said, if you saw what I see in DC, you would see a path to total victory for crypto in the USA, in spite of the brutal damage, barrage of negative headlines and brute force attack by the US government. He says we're near the end of the beginning for the then they fight you phase of crypto adoption. He said, and then we win. Well, I hope you're right, Ryan. I hope that what you are seeing in Washington, D.C. is indeed in such a path, because it's a big opportunity. Crypto's for everybody, right? It's not just about, okay, the USA gets a huge benefit from the cryptocurrency industry. Yeah, fantastic, right? But crypto is for everybody. This is the thing. Everybody in the world needs to have access to cryptocurrencies and the technology, right? This is the ownership layer of the internet to tell people, well, you're not allowed to own anything on the internet. You're not allowed to own your money on the internet. That's for the governments to do. You're not allowed to own your collectibles or anything else on the internet. That's for companies to do, et cetera, et cetera. It's anti-competition. And what's interesting, of course, in all this is there's Hong Kong just rubbing their hands together, getting excited, because, of course, Hong Kong is opening up to the crypto world. In fact, Hong Kong came out and said, well, we need 50 to 100,000 Web3 professionals over the next few years. They are going big time into crypto. They expect to need up to 100,000 professionals in Hong Kong to fulfill the demand for the Web3 industry in just the next few years. That, they say, is based on conservative estimates. Crazy.